it's the Pennsylvania Hitman, and I'm here to tell you about a street fight story. Alright, so this happened a long time ago, like before I even knew Jiu-Jitsu or what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was. I was just super young, probably 17, 18, 19 years old, right around that age at the time. And I got kicked out of my house, and I was kind of just floating around from place to place, and I got kicked out of this one place I was living, and luckily my friend's mom, her name's Fran, really good woman. Oh my God, man, she's a really good woman. God rest her soul, because she's passed away, but super good lady, like not a bad bone in her body. And my friend Brian, he was living with his girlfriend Heather and their kids, and they're living with Brian's mom, Fran. So we're living on 10th and Cascade, for you people that know Erie, and it's winter time. So this is like January, February. This was back when like the snow was just like when they plow snow, the snow was stacked up like 4, 5, 6 feet high, maybe. You know what I mean? The snow mounds from plowing the snow in the streets. 10th and Cascade, that's like the lower west side of town. Not a terribly bad neighborhood, but not the best neighborhood either. And we lived around the street from this guy, Dan and Joe. I'm gonna keep their last names secret, because don't want to run them in. I think there's some all right guys. You know what I mean? We had some problems, but we were friends. We were friends at the time. Okay, so we were friends. And we all used to hang out and play basketball together. Brian was like super good friends with them, okay? So I'm living with Brian. Like, they're not Brian's relatives, but they were like his relatives. I ended up getting busted. We were breaking into cars and stealing car stereos systems and reselling them and stuff. We were doing some stuff like that. So me and these guys, we were always doing like dirt together. Well, we ended up getting busted. I should say I got busted. They followed our tracks in the snow, and this guy and Joe and Dan's dad hated me. They didn't like me, so we were like all like down in his basement, like looking at the stuff we got. Well, meanwhile, we didn't know the cops were following our tracks in the snow. Well, they were outside the house. His dad must have came downstairs wondering why the cops were outside the house, and I seen his dad. I ran out the back door. I didn't want him to beat me up. Their dad was known to be like super tough. Like, I heard this story about his dad that he got in a fight at this bar, bit this dude's fingers off, spit him in some drink or on the ground or some crazy shit. And so this dude was a super tough guy, and I didn't want him to beat me up. So he came downstairs and I saw him and I was like, fuck. So I ran out the back door. I ran, boom, right into the police. So I stick my hands up, I had a backpack full of like some stereo equipment, and, get thrown in the back. Didn't snitch on them, nothing like that. I just took my punishment, went down to the station, got locked up in the city jail cell, it's called like the drunk cell or something. They let me out after shift was over, and I walked home. So I get home, blah, blah, blah. So then like a month or two later, I don't know, man, like, Joe and Dan had a problem with me for something. I don't even remember what the reason was, but they came down to Brian's house where I'm staying at, and Dan is screaming outside, screaming for me to come out. He's gonna beat my ass, blah blah blah, all this nonsense. And remember, it's wintertime. I'm talking like the snow is 3-4 feet deep, and he's out there with no shirt on, screaming and hollering at the top of his lungs. I know his brother Joe was there. I'm not too sure if there was anybody else. I kind of feel like I remember maybe 2 or 3 other people there, but this was a long time ago. Well, Brian and Heather were downstairs, and they yell up, say, "Hey, Dan, Dan wants you to go outside to fight him." I came down halfway down the stairs, and I was like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, Dan's out there screaming. He wants you to come out and fight him." I said, "All right, hold on, I'll be right back down." And Brian was like, "Well, where are you going?" I was like, "I put some clothes on. I ain't going outside in the cold with no clothes on." So this is where I fought super smart. I won this fight without even throwing a punch. You guys are gonna love this. This is hilarious. So I put on some long johns. I put my jeans on. I got like a thermal, maybe a turtleneck back then or something like that. Depends on what we were wearing. I put on a hooded sweatshirt, and I got my winter gloves on. I come downstairs, and Brian's like, "What the hell? Why you got all them clothes on?" I said, "Watch. You'll know why. You'll understand why." So I go outside. I'm pretty damn sure I'm tougher than this guy, so I really wasn't too concerned about him beating him up. About him beating me up. Maybe I was worried about maybe his brothers jumping me or something like that, but I really wasn't too sweating. And I was just like, I'm just going to go out there and teach this kid a lesson. So he's still out there with no shirt on. So I got there. I got my winter gloves on. I got my hooded sweatshirt on. I might even have put Timberlands on or something like that. I had winter boots on. I was not going outside, not dressed for the occasion. So, we start squaring up. We circle around, and he kind of steps to me, and all I did was just duck down. I'm a good wrestler. So again, back then I was just a wrestler, boxer, no jiu-jitsu. I just tackled him, and I held him in a snowbank. So his bare back and arms, neck, head, I got him stuffed in this snowbank. And I'm just holding him on the snow. He's going to get cold eventually and get frostbite, if anything. And I start holding him there. He's like, let me go, let me go. And then all of a sudden, that snow is starting to kick in. That snow on his bare skin. And now he's freezing his fucking ass off. Let me go, I'm fucking freezing, blah, 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 blah. I was like, you gonna knock your shit off? You gonna calm the fuck down? Let me up, I'm fucking freezing my ass off, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not too sure exactly the words that came out of his mouth, but he wanted me to let him go because he was stuffed in a snowbank with no damn shirt on and no freaking gloves. So even, he's trying to push to get up, and he's shoving his hands deep in the snow. So all I did was tackle him, hold him in the snow, and cool his ass off. And I eventually let him go, and they walked back home. I walked back in the house, took my clothes off, and went about my day. And nothing ever came of it after that. I can't remember. I'm sure it must have been just something. We must have gotten along after that, because I didn't live there long, but I lived there for a little bit, and I would have remembered if some shit was happening, because those guys used to come down and hang out with Brian. Brian would go up there. We were always back and forth to each other's houses. So I imagine whatever problem he had with me, it must have got settled after I held him in the snow. So that's one of the times where I fought super smart and won a fight without even throwing a punch. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next time.